Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. It is Karen here with you today. Today I'm going to share with you an image from Michelle Grant Designs, and this is the free image that's available for April, and this one is all about transformation. So it's taking the original picture and then transforming it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, but only a little bit. I'm not going too wild. I wasn't brave enough. Okay, so I've printed my image out onto some rice paper and I've sprayed it with some fixative, so then when I glue it down with my gel medium, the ink doesn't smear. So you've seen me glue it just into my book just a minute ago. I've also got some tissue paper here, and these flowers are from the Crowned art pack, and I've printed them out onto tissue paper, and again I've sprayed them with a fixative so that when I glue them down the ink doesn't run. And I've also put a little wash of gesso onto the back of it. Now this is because when I glue my flowers down, I didn't want to be able to see through them. I guess I could have printed them out onto some copy paper or something like that, but I hadn't, so I just used what I already had printed out. So now I'm just gluing those ones in very carefully, because they're tissue, they're really thin, with my matte medium, and then once it's all dry and I've put a layer of watercolour ground over the top of it as well, I can start having a bit of a play with my watercolours. So I've got out my Daniel Smith ones here, and then I decided I didn't have enough oranges. Well, I didn't have any oranges in my Daniel Smith ones, so I grabbed out my Prima ones as well. So I'm just starting off just by adding some colour into the flowers, as you can see there, with just a round paintbrush. But then I realised, hang on a minute, that's not quite the right paintbrush. I want my black velvet one, because it holds a lot more water and helps disperse the colours a bit easier. So I'll get that one out in a minute. But at the moment I'm just adding some skin colour to my girl. I think the colour is Titanium Buff, and I've got a little bit of raw sepia, I think, as well, and I've just mixed those two together to create a bit of a skin colour. So yeah, that's what I'm doing there. So once that's dry, I'll add on another layer in a minute. But I'm going to do some brown strokes through her hair. I think this one might be a Van Dyke brown. Standard brown. Very boring, but I'm going to add some other colours into it later. So it's kind of a base, it's kind of a nice base to start off with. And in between some of the gaps here of the flowers. Now, my flowers are a little bit wide apart, but I am going to fix that in a minute. Well, in a little bit. I'm going to draw in some leaves myself. But in the meantime, I'm just adding in some browns, a little bit of orange, to create some different highlights here into her hair. And while that bit's sort of drying, I'm coming back and adding a little bit more into her skin colour around her face and that nut and whatnot as well. So okay, so here I am. I've got a Uniball rollerball pen. It's just a fine micro rollerball, and it's actually waterproof, so it is perfect for using with watercolors. So because I've got a bit of a watercolor ground on my paper already, my pen is having a little bit of trouble drawing over it, and that's because I picked out the really fine nib. So if I picked one that was a little bit a bit thicker in the nib, then I wouldn't have had as much trouble as what I did. So you can see me going off to the side there, trying to get my pen to work again. I mean, it does work fine. It's just that, it's the surface that I had, which was the watercolour ground. Anyway, doesn't matter. We just keep on going until we're happy. and if it doesn't work, well then, you know, you come up with some other idea. So yeah, so here I am just still continuing to doodle those little flowers in, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a quick heat set with my heat gun there as well before I start adding some colour in. So I'm just wetting those paints again in my palette, and now you can see I've got my proper watercolour brush out, which works so much better than that other one. Anyway, so yeah, so I've just added in a little bit of green, and then I'm going to mix up another little bit of green, and I'm going to add that in as well. And then I'm going to come back and actually just with some water is just kind of soften off those leaves a little bit. Yeah, so I can get the full leaf covered with a bit of colour. But in the meantime, I'm adding in a little bit more orangey. Well, actually, I think it's pink, but it mixes with the yellow and makes the flowers look a little bit orangey. So, yeah, so that was cool. Oh, so here I am doing the other little bit with the leaves. So just dragging that colour out and about. So it's actually looking quite pretty. Quite liking how it turned out. So, yeah, so I've just added in a little bit more red, which made it really orange, which was a little bit too much orange, so I'm going to wipe that bit there off a little bit to soften it off. And I don't know why I grabbed purple, but I did. And I put that into the center of my flowers, and it actually made them go more brown, more like of a burnt orange type of feel. So I actually quite liked it. It reminded me of the, you know, of all the autumn leaves that are changing colours at the moment. So, yeah, I thought it was really pretty. So she's reminding me very much of autumn, even though it's been snowing here in Tassie of late. In fact, we had a massive dump overnight, so it's definitely heading into the cooler weather. Okay, so there I am. I've just added another little bit into her face. So just adding a little bit more shadow around her eye sockets and around the hairline just a little bit, and under the chin. So I'll get that nice and dry, and then I'll come in with the next part, which is actually my Inktense pencils. So I'm just scribbling in a little bit of colour onto the leaves, a little bit of colour into the flowers, and a little bit of red in there in between the flowers, kind of where the leaves are, and a little bit of yellow. And then I'm going to give it a spritz with my water bottle. There you go, and you can see it really pop and come to life there. And I've grabbed my pencil again just to add in a little bit more colour, so that looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I've got out some brown pencils, so brown and reds, to create some more highlights in her hair. I'm mopping up some of the massive big puddles that I managed to get. As always, you know, I'm so sloppy with my painting and my watercolours and everything. It all just goes bleh. Anyway, when I had all this dried off, it wasn't as looking as pretty as what it was. So I'm going to come back in with my pencils to help brighten up those flowers a little bit more. And I'm also adding some colour into her eyes, which you just saw me do there. So here I've added a little bit more into the flowers. There we go. That looks much better. And see how it's brightened up her hair as well, just by adding in that extra layer of that crimson into the flowers. It's brought out some of the other warmth in her hair. So yeah, and because the leaves were looking a little bit washed out, I'm coming back in with my Daniel Smith again just to add in another layer of colour over the top to help bring them out as well. Doing a little bit more with her eyes. I'm quite happy with how her eyes turned out actually. They're very soft and lovely. And her lips were going quite well, I thought, until I added some black pen later, and I'm like, why did I do that? Anyway, as I was watching it back, it didn't look too bad actually on the camera. So, Anyway, so I've got my pan pastels out at the moment, and I'm just smoothing out the skin colour. So you can see me just working some of that colour around the edges. I've got a darker burnt umber one there just to create a little bit more shadow around her nose, her eyes, her hairline, and under her chin. Softening it back off again with the lighter colour so it blends in a little bit better. So it's a little bit like, well, I use them like, you know, you would be putting on makeup, and it's probably not the right way to do it. I'm definitely no expert. I'm just doing it how I think it works, and it works for me, and it's probably totally wrong, but I don't care because I think it looks cool, and that's all that matters to me, is that I'm happy with my work at the end of the day. So yeah, that's all you got to do, really. So yeah, I'm putting in some catch lights into her eyes there, so they look really pretty. And I'm going to put some dots into these flowers to help soften them off a little bit as well. And I'm actually going to put a white squiggly line around these flowers as well. I did the first one and I kind of regretted it, but then I had to carry on and do the rest, but then it didn't look so bad. So yeah. It was accidentally on purpose. So here I am adding some more colour into her lips, adding a little bit of a highlight to it. But because I've used the pan pastels over the top, it kind of lost some of its darker edges. So that's why I'm coming in with my black rollerball pen. Again, it's the same one that I used to draw all those leaves and whatnot in. And I'm just giving her some, dizzying up her eyelashes, making them a little bit more darker, a little bit on her nose. So yeah, just that bit there doesn't look so bad. And then I decide, yeah, I better do her lips, and then I do them and I'm like, oh my god, what have I done? But you know, as I'm watching it back, it's like, well, you know, that really didn't look so bad. But then I continued on with it and fiddled with it, and yeah, I really shouldn't have done. I think it looked fine how it was originally, but anyway. See, I come back in with the pan pastels and I'm looking at it and I was like, oh no, then I've smudged it. So then I got to fix up my smudge. Dear oh dear. So I made a bit of a mess of the lips, but anyway, I guess they're passable in the end of the day. So yeah. Anyway, so I've just about finished. So the last thing that I'm going to do is just add a little bit of colour around the outside of my page here, because, you know, I've got white space and we can't have white space in my art journal. It's just not possible. And that's it. So here's a bit of a close-up of my girl. You can see her eyes and her lips there, her dodgy lips. There's a better one with just her eyes and the flowers. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today and watching my video. I hope that I have inspired you to get your hands on the April Transform image. I'll put a link down in the description box so you can grab that if you like, and be sure to share that in Michelle Grant's group as well. Okay, until next time, I will see you later. Bye.